Good evening. Welcome to the Board of Supervisors meeting. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First, we have our guest speaker, Casey. Actually, you need to turn it this way and address the Board of Supervisors.
So I'm going to address
Mr. Grove, you need to turn it and face the Board of Supervisors. You are to address the Board of Supervisors.
Okay, I'll address you.
Turn it and face the Board of Supervisors.
So we're going to be able, am I going to be able to talk about?
If you would like to speak, you need to turn and face the Board of Supervisors.
So I'm reporting to the taxpayers tonight, despite Carrie's disapproval of that. I'm an elected peace officer of this township, constable, with an oath to defend the Constitution. I have a website, constablegrove.com, a Facebook page, and I've been asked to keep this limited in time so I can address any questions that anybody may have afterwards. The purpose of this is just to kind of keep the taxpayers up to speed on things that I've been doing. First things that I did was started to write some resolutions, which are position statements. The first one is the safeguard of landowner property rights, and that supports your right to not allow anyone access to your private property without a warrant or probable cause. For instance, I sent the board recently an open letter about an ordinance that's pretty old. It's maybe 12, 14 years old. And it basically establishes a privilege. This is under Chapter 4, Section 219, I believe. Basically gives them the privilege to come onto our private property without a warrant to inspect for violations. It's pretty unrestrictive, and I think it does violate our Fourth Amendment, which says that we have the right to be secure without these kind of warrantless intrusions. The second thing I did was a position statement saying that I respect your right to bear arms. That includes firearms, ammunition, any sort of accessories. That's in accordance with the Second Amendment. Third thing I did was to proclaim that I would have a transparent position, and in doing so I put a lot of my records and related records on my website, constablegrove.com. In May, I served in the primary election, and constables are actually mandated by law to be at the polls. We're the only type of law enforcement that's permitted there, unless a cop is voting or called by the election judge. And that's about a 16-hour day. It goes from the first cast vote until all the votes have been counted. Constables do receive $85 from the county for that service. I did ask them not to send me a check. They sent a check anyways. As Scott knows, I donated that $85 to the township. And if you add that up over the course of this 4-year term, which I'm serving, that'll be $700 in donations to the fire company. So that's one of the things that this constable position, as it's been not utilized at all, could be filtering money back into the township. There was only one instance of a potential incident that took place, which was a candidate was asking voters outside of the poll what their political party was, and a voter came in discouraged with that. The election judge handled that swiftly. In May, I came up with an award for Penns Valley's graduating seniors. It's titled the Bill of Rights Award. They have to write an essay, apply for it, and the winner this year was a young lady by the name of Emma Latchett. And I think her essay made a really good point, in this thing where we talk about everybody's rights, and we talk about how we don't like that one person exercises their rights, but the importance of her essay was establishing that all of our rights are important, and it's kind of a domino effect when rights are starting to be stripped away. In August, I participated in the fire company parade. My family and I tossed a bunch of candy, pounds and pounds of it, and we handed out about 50 pocket constitutions. Also in May and June, I issued a first public service announcement, which is a short video. It's about 1 minute and 30 seconds, and it's available on my website. Also accepted invitation to sit in the dunk tank, which was a lot of fun there at the carnival. And I think that would be something that maybe you guys could be a little better sports next year. Jump in the dunk tank and take a bath. So in the future, what should you expect from me? More PSAs. We'll make more videos, and also plan to go through with the certification, which I think is really going to take this position to the next level. So again, thanks for the opportunity to speak. I know it was probably difficult to let me speak, and appreciate everybody listening.
Move on to public comment. First is Carol.
I'm Carol Gregg. Thanks for turning this the way it's supposed to be, Casey. That's nice of you. I urge you, Doug, Charles, and Carrie, that you insist that this dog and pony show be stopped. What are we up to? 140 right to know requests? That's insane. And now it's a school, Center Hall Borough. Oh, where's it going to end? I mean, you got to stop it. And why do we have the resolution for video if you're not enforcing her to sit to the back of the room? Why aren't you enforcing it? As supervisors, it should be done. This dog and pony show has just got to end. Thank you.
Next is Pat.
Ladies and gentlemen of the board, thank you for this opportunity. As you are aware, the Penn Valley EMS has a structural deficit, which is basically mandated by law. And after the last set of national and state elections, it was painfully obvious that there was going to be no help from Washington or Harrisburg as far as the helping the ambulance stay afloat. About 60% of the business we get at Penn Valley EMS is Medicare, Medicaid, which pay about 30% or 1/8 or 12% of what it costs to maintain it, to run an ambulance. From what I understand, the municipalities have donated somewhere in the neighborhood of $115,000 to $120,000 for this year's, which does really which helps close the budget gap, which usually was $150,000 to $160,000. Currently, there are several municipalities in the valley who are instituting a local service tax, which if anybody attended the meeting on June 19th about that, the best that can do is maybe $40,000 if everybody in the valley institutes such a tax. The only mechanism, and of course that only 25% of that is mandated by law to go to emergency services. So that might be about $10,000 to cover a $660,000 deficit. The only mechanism that Pennsylvania has to guarantee funding to keep a rural ambulance service going, of course, is a real estate tax. That's the only tax that the legislature gives to local municipalities to increase. Hopefully Gregg Township will, before November, enact such a tax. I'm more willing to pay it because we need ambulance service. And we cannot depend upon donation from municipalities for something they are mandated by law to provide. And hopefully Gregg Township will step up and provide the leadership they provided over the years. Back 100 years ago, people rode the train into Gregg Township because we had the high school. We have the only community center in central Pennsylvania. We have been a leader, and I hope that this board will take the steps to lead this valley into the future with ambulance service, which will be there in the future. Thanks very much. I got no milk for my chickens now.
Thanks. Next, Michelle. We are a board collectively, meaning each one of us has the same equal amount of vote. Things can't just be passed without the whole board voting on it. So if any member that comes onto this board, they cannot do anything themselves outside of this board. Decisions can't be made by that person, and actions cannot be taken by that person. Carrie Miller said this to me on February 7th last year at an old Gregg School Advisory Board meeting. On January 2nd of this year, she surprised us with a detailed plan to dissolve that board on the spot. It was Solicitor Gaines who suggested tabling it. On the agenda for tonight's meeting, you will notice the Township has recently appealed 2 final determinations by the Office of Open Records, bringing the issues into the Court of Common Pleas. In both cases, the final determination of the OR and petition for review were filed in between regular meetings of the Board of Supervisors, who made the decision to appeal these final determinations. The decision to appeal the final determination regarding surveillance footage I requested back in 2016 was voted on in a public meeting last year. I think it was April. So what has changed since last year? I won this footage on June 25th without a lawyer from the Commonwealth Court. Yet the Township has repeatedly refused to give it to me. This week I asked for it on 3 different days. I've also been trying to obtain other records that were granted and not provided. Some of these records go back as far as March of last year that were granted by the OR. Jennifer Snyder, Carrie Miller, and Doug Beerley have all told me no when I asked for these records. Supervisor Miller has made the office an even more hostile environment for me than it ever was before, yelling loudly that I am harassing her employees by asking for these long overdue records that I am legally entitled to. I told her I was not there to talk to her, that I was not talking to her, and that I will see her in this meeting, and she continued to yell until I left. The security footage is regarding a secret meeting that took place in the office in December of 2016. I was in the hall, so I heard the discussion and the decisions being made by Doug Beerley, Joel Myers, and the secretary, and possibly others. Now we have 2 supervisors working in the office. Decisions are being made outside of public meetings. The Township spends thousands of dollars litigating my requests, then simply ignores the result when they lose. At this point, there is no other legal remedy to obtain these records, which there are many of them, than to take the Township to court. I just want to add one more thing. Is about 5 minutes before the meeting started, I got this from David Gaines. And so this could be the security footage that I requested in December of 2016 and won in June of this year. If it is, I will let everyone know on Facebook once I review it. Thank you for your time. Mrs. Hobson. Can you please state your name and where you're located?
As you may already know, because your employees have Googled me, I am the man, the myth, the legend, Hobson McCown from Ferguson Township in Center County. Desire to own property, as I had stated at the February 8th, 2018 meeting here in Gregg Township. Before, on, or after that date, Gregg Township employee or employees decided to spend time, or at least computer resources of the township to Google my name. And as I understand from reviewing records and coming to a meeting and doing other background investigation, there are certainly many duties under state law for which compliance is demanded of this township, for which that time might have been better spent complying with that law instead of spending time Googling people. And I'm not the only person who's been Googling. Now, if members of your township are spending time on potentially frivolous activities in the face of duties under state law, it might be appropriate to audit these activities because the cost of not doing so and correcting that behavior is the cost of suffering civil penalties, attorney's fees, and a penalty on a per-day basis for failure to comply with court orders under the Pennsylvania Right to Know law. That is an act of assembly from our state legislature. It's not something that this municipality can choose to ignore at any time. It's not something that a stop can be put to for the financial convenience or other convenience of the municipality. And in my wish to acquire property in this township, it's not, I don't want to end up with property with a township that's veering towards bankruptcy because they are hit with civil penalties, attorney's fees, penalties for not complying with orders, and so on. It's important that there is a liquid township that remains that way so that it can do its duties. I'm not bothered that someone would want to know who I am. I know that's just a neighborly thing to do. But if it's done on township resources at the expense of complying with acts of the General Assembly, there needs to be a review of what's going on. Because when I acquire that property in Gregg Township, I want there to continue to be a Sullivan Township available. So that someone else doesn't have to become its master. Thank you for your time.
End of the public comment period. We'll move on to liaison reports. First, solicitor report.
Nothing that's not on the agenda.
Emergency management coordinator. Dawn's not here. I know Dawn was busy with all the flooding. She's driving around a lot and checking all the creeks. Gregg Township Fire Company.
During the recent flooding, we pumped one basement. That's pretty awesome. Bring those people who know how to live when it happened. We were approved for a DCNR grant. We are going to purchase wildland firefighting equipment for that. Our stuff is really old and really deteriorated. I think we're getting six wildland jumpsuits and helmets. Today I found out that we were approved for a FEMA grant. We will be buying brand new MSA air packs. They are very expensive, about $8,000 a piece. We're probably going to end up paying somewhere between 10 and 15% of that cost, which is pretty nice because our air packs are just about to run out, and if we didn't have this grant, then I'm not sure how we would be breathing inside a house fire. We're still looking at options for our rescue vehicle. As you know, it was overweight, so I had our guys unload it, and we have specifically just rescue equipment on there. There's no longer used for firefighting. There's a discrepancy with the door tag on it. We're trying to get through that with Chevrolet and the body builder towing. We need to do something with the front truck shed on our building out by the flagpole. It's falling down. I was in talks with some contractors who said they'd be around, and they never came around. So right now I'm in the midst of contacting our local guys, Chris Coons, guys like that, see if they can help us out, get us some sort of price, and then I think what we're probably going to have to do is try to find a grant somewhere to help us pay for that. Hopefully they'll give us a deal on that. Active membership is growing pretty well. Since last October, we've more than doubled it. I'd like to thank the supervisors again for purchasing our carnival tickets. That was the best carnival we've had in years, so that's excellent. I'm happy about that. I'm going to change, all of our boxes are set up by numbers, like Penn Valley Building Supply and Medical Center, that's our 720 box. So if they page us out and they say box 720, we know where we're going. We had a motorcyclist down way back on Old Sand Mountain Road over the weekend, last weekend. And he was a cardiac patient, and his bike was down, and he was on Old Sand Mountain Road, which is basically a little less than a sidewalk for a path. That box was not set up for that rescue. Everything up that way is a 740 box, so, or down that way. I'm gonna make everything from Lower George's, Bonita Gap area, up the mountain, and over the other side, a little, I don't know, 1,000-foot stretch of Gregg Township. That's going to be our 750 box, so I can get the correct equipment on there for this type of thing. Side-by-sides, four-wheelers, snowmobiles, whatever we need, depending on what time of year it is. I believe that's all I have. Thank you.
Would the Board of Supervisors consider for the fire police 36 traffic cones? We don't have any that are legal, is that correct?
Right, we have old green ones that are not legal. We need 36-inch orange ones with the reflective tape on them.
What's the cost?
I have no idea at this point. I mean, where do you folks buy yours?
We don't. Just the only ones from older. Bradco has them, anybody, US Municipal.
I don't know, maybe you might be able to get a better deal than we can. I don't know.
I can call if they want me to.
I guess we can, why don't we can each price them, and then we'll see what he gets and see what we get.
I got one price, but I thought it was ridiculous. I
Yeah,
mean,
they're-
it was
they
like
are.
$15.60 a piece. Now, that just didn't seem enough to me, but I may be wrong.
How many did you say for the minutes? Did you say a number?
36. What they'll do then is divide them up amongst the members, and they will keep them in their personal vehicles.
Fire police, yeah.
I think we can get prices and then make a decision for next season.
That'd be awesome, thank you.
That's all I have.
Old Gregg School Advisory Board report.
We don't have a whole lot, other than the pump and the fountain has stopped working. But we're getting another one, but we're not going to have it installed until spring just because of the weather. The other thing, we are hoping to have the policy manual completed within the month, so I can be hopefully voted on. And our craft fair is moving along wonderfully. I believe last year we had 40 or 41 vendors, and this year so far we already have 21 confirmed vendors, which I think is great. And we are going to have Santa Claus this year. We're going to try something a little bit different. We're going to have music still, but we're going to have Santa Claus instead, maybe get some kids pictures taken, what have you. We're still looking for a stove, and I have been in contact with Mike's Appliances and Video. We may be able to work something with them besides the one, I think Doug, you, Altoona, or is that Charles?
Yeah, I
One
said
of you.
Altoona would be a good place to look.
Or
Yeah.
maybe,
Yeah. And the only other thing we have, we are still looking for 2 or 3 additional members.
just to add to your comments, Jim has access to that pump. I need to get the bill to the secretary, which it was $135.
Okay. A little less than the last time, isn't it?
Nope, just a little bit more.
Is it more? Okay. That's all I have. Anybody, you have any questions for me?
I have none.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. So at this time, we'll work through these. Last month, they brought to us about the PCO room renovations. We need to make a motion to approve or deny that. So I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion, we approve the renovations.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion?
Not here.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimous. And then we also have a revised rental contract. The Old Gregg School Board approved it. This is when people rent space. David had also reviewed it. So we just need approval for that so we can start using the new rental agreement.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second the motion.
Any further discussion?
None.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries unanimous. We also have the PCO lease. We also have the PCO lease.
Yes, we have a PCO lease here. This lease is a revised lease. It's much more streamlined than the previous one. Dave has looked at it and said it's okay. I've read it. I don't see any issues with it, other than PCO has asked for first right of refusal on any rooms that become available on the second floor, and I believe we want to go with just one room where they can have first right of refusal. I believe the advisory board is on the same page with that too. Yeah. So, would you like to look at this?
When you're ready, I'll entertain a motion.
I briefly had gone over this before, so I'll make the motion to accept
I
this.
will second the motion.
Any further discussion?
On here,
All those in favor to approve the revised PCO lease with the change of
Only
one room?
First room
First right of
available.
refusal on the next one room available. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimous. That is it for that physical plant manager's report.
yeah, I was concerned on Monday about rising water. When it gets too high, it actually backs up through the drains in the basement floor, comes into the boiler room. And so we had the pump ready and was down there looking at it, but it never came up that high. So next week might be a different story. The locks on the second floor are being rekeyed. Every room that PCO is renting is being rekeyed. And we had a few locks downstairs rekeyed on the thrift shop, and one lock upstairs, the insurance office. That's all I have.
Operations manager report.
I'm working on the policy manual. I gave it to the Old Gregg School Board to read over and make some changes before the next meeting so that they can vote on that. The building's been reserved quite heavily. It's going to be getting worse as fall starts. It's our busy time of year. Let's see. The youth center has switched from Wednesday night to Thursday night, so that's probably why parking was a little bit harder tonight. We're going to have that conflict. They know to stay down on that end of the building, but if it gets noisy, we'll just have to shut the door. There's a couple of, besides the craft fair that Carol talked about, there's a fiber festival. It's going to take place all day, one Saturday I think it's in October. And the Little League basketball will start using the gym in November. So it's starting to fill up in the evenings. We have a new fitness instructor that's teaching on Tuesday nights and Thursday mornings, a mom and stroller class on, I think, Thursday mornings. So.
Move on to Penns Valley Code Enforcement Agency.
Really nothing to add at this point. I had a week where I was off work for a while, but we've issued 193 permits year to date, and that's pretty much it. I do have to attend another meeting, I believe, in a few minutes. Is there anything you guys have for me?
I do have two things that I'd like to ask. One is a request, if you could copy us on correspondence sent to residents, like when you send them letters when they're in violation of something, if you could copy the township so we're aware.
Just violations or brief correspondence?
Anything that's, I would think, violations that's going to affect, that could have potential to affect the township as a whole. And the other one is, just to clarify, we've had some confusion amongst us. How do you accept complaints?
In writing.
Formal only, or?
In writing only.
In writing.
Depending on, if it's a building code violation, we're obligated to follow up. If it is like a lawn complaint, your policy always says that it's either in writing or an email from the supervisor.
That was all I had.
In writing, I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you said. In writing or what?
Or I've done it on emails from the supervisor.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Penns Valley EMS, Lindsay couldn't be here tonight. She sent me her report. She said the membership campaign for the EMS begins on October 1st. Watch your mailboxes for this year's Revitalize Membership pamphlet. You will also notice signs throughout the valley, in particular outside PVEMS, where we will be tracking the number of memberships purchased. Our goal is 3,000 memberships this year. In years past, we've averaged around 1,500. With this increase, we hope to make PVEMS most sustainable. This year's pamphlet also aims to succinctly inform you and your family what the PVEMS membership does for you, PVEMS, and your Penns Valley community as a whole. We will be at Burkholders during the October weekends advertising the memberships, and you can always purchase online. Their fall-winter fundraiser will revolve around a day for children, pets, and families to meet Santa, enjoy some goodies, and have their Christmas presents wrapped by our volunteer members of the PVEMS Auxiliary. Date to be determined and more details coming soon. Penns Valley Regional Planning Commission.
The Penns Valley Regional Planning Commission will meet this Monday, September 17th in this room at 7 p.m. One of the major item on the agenda is review of the comprehensive plan.
Planning Commission.
We didn't meet this past month.
Tri-Municipal Park.
Just a couple things on update. We did groundbreaking in August, and believe it or not, in full rain, things have moved forward. The basin is basically constructed. It's keeping all that water that came from under the road and up the springs and so forth, keeping that water in that area. So that's helped a lot with the rest of the area. So we are going to have I'm not sure what we're going to call it, but we're going to have
Media Day.
a media day, okay. But we really didn't have media at the groundbreaking ceremony. So that's going to be the 27th, 2 weeks from today, at 12 o'clock. And we're going to try to get the media there. We also want to get the organizations that are helping to fund the park there. And there's now a picnic table up there at the top, so you can sit down there, have a snack, watch the dust, not the dust fly, but watch some work there. And so we're very pleased with everything you're doing.
Hey Joel, while you're there, I think it makes sense, since it's not on the agenda otherwise, to get the supervisors to sign several agreements to help with the closing of the loan on the park, at least one of them, the Penvest one. The first document I have is an easement agreement. The easement agreement essentially gives the park the right to use the property. The property is co-owned by the 3 municipalities. For the loan to go through Penvest, the lending entity wants to make sure that there's something in writing saying the park can use the property. Seems pretty easy, but that would be the first motion. Second motion is a promissory note. Because of the status of the park a while back, the township took out a $50,000 non-revolving line of credit. It's unclear whether the park, or to what extent the park might need to use that. It's for the park, it's not for any other purpose. The promissory note says that the park will pay back the township for any funds expended as part of that line of credit. Reimbursement agreement is the third agreement or document to sign. Reimbursement agreement says that it's essentially a guarantee. If the park can't pay the loan proceeds, then Gregg Township will be responsible for a third of the loan. And I think we should take a fourth motion to essentially do any and all other activities or tasks that might be necessary for the closing. Right now, I think this is it. I continue to have conversations with Penvest and everybody in case something comes up on Monday or what have you in advance of this closing. We need to have something on the books that gives us the authority to do so. So the first motion would be to sign the easement agreement with the park.
there a motion to sign the easement agreement?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
Any further discussion?
None.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Second motion is the promissory note and loan agreement.
Question on that.
Yes.
If that's giving the tri-park permission to utilize the line of credit, they have to first come to the municipalities to get permission for whatever that is, correct? They can't just...
Yeah, I mean, the line of credit's in your name, so you don't have to do anything really. But this says if you do give them money, they have to pay it back.
Entertain a motion to approve the, say that word, promissory?
Promissory note and loan
Promissory
agreement.
note.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
Any further discussion?
Not here.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimous.
Third is a reimbursement agreement. It's essentially a guarantee of the loan.
I'll entertain a motion to approve the reimbursement agreement.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Fourth is to take any actions that might be required to assist with the closing of this loan.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
Any further discussion?
None.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimous.
Thank you. The closing's on the 25th.
Closing on the 25th. We really need to thank David for all the work he's done. I know he was on the road the other day and he managed to get into our teleconference at 3 o'clock, I guess it was. And there's just been so much things that we did not expect. So he's done a real good job of keeping us where we want to be. Just for your information too, we're working on our insurance. Actually, Father has called their insurance people and it's got to be Tri-Municipal Park has to be covered. They want a separate policy, so that's being taken care of this week yet. So we have to have everything done or the closing gets delayed, which in essence is going to delay reimbursement for construction, so. Thank you.
Thank you. Water and Sewer Authority, Gil Morrison sent his report. Water Authority, no new business. There was an update on leak detection along Route 45 right-of-way. Sewer Authority, no new business. Since the meeting, there was a report from the plant manager concerning the recent rains totaling 4.9 inches. The plant ran at increased capacity and processing time was monitored. The plant was also able to handle the extra flow. We'll move on to Secretary Treasurer's report. I'll entertain a motion to approve the August 9th, 2018 Board of Supervisors meeting minutes.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion?
None.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimous. I'll entertain a motion to accept the all funds financial report.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second here.
Any further discussion?
No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimous.
Just so you know, we went down, from last month, I think we had 900,000 as a bottom line, we're at 589, but that's because we paid for a lot of road projects. So that's, I mean, it was a big jump from one, I think it was $200 and some thousand. Yeah, so our roads look good. Anyway, just thought I'd point that out.
Interest rate policy.
I mean, David talked to me about it. What did you say, we should charge 6, I think we should make a motion to charge 6% interest if we, we don't have anything to charge interest for at the moment. But we're, the way the sewer, Jeff Krieger used to get all the checks and then, just turn in the checks, then we would pay him. Laren has, and when we signed his, when he gave us his thing at the beginning of the year, and he's done it some way and some another way, but he's turned in invoices that we then in turn invoice these people, and if they don't reimburse us, I just want an interest rate that we can charge. So if we want to make a motion for 6%, that would be great.
I would make that motion.
I'll second the motion.
Any further discussion?
No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimous. Anything else on your Secretary Treasurer's report? Right to know report?
Self-explanatory.
We did also,
It was
in
last
addition,
updated on the 11th. So
it was last updated on the 11th. We have since received another right to know request and just 5 more appeals this afternoon. I also would like to make a comment regarding the security footage that the court ordered for us to turn over. Like, we did turn over that footage today, but we're gonna have to have discussions on what that means for the security of the building moving forward. We'll need to discuss getting another security audit done on the building and making whatever changes we need to the security cameras in order to be able to continue to provide the safety and security of the people that use this building. So that would be an additional cost to the taxpayers in order for us to make sure we keep providing what was recommended from the state police and the sheriff's office. So that will be additional funds we'll need to discuss when we do budget.
Yeah, I think at the least we need to have a security audit redone.
So you said about contacting the sheriff's office to find out what their recommendations are in terms of next steps for that. Any further discussion on that, or?
I haven't gone to this point.
Yeah, we'll see what the security audit says.
Do you want to make, is there a motion?
I'll make a motion that you said contact the sheriff's office and investigate another security audit to see where our weaknesses are.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Any further discussion?
No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimous. Roadmaster's report.
Okay, since last month, obviously, it's been a little bit wet. We're dealing with a lot of water issues, stones. We finished the blue ball project. We got the guardrails installed that we got a grant for. So that's pretty much buttoned up. I think we're going to wait on the Benita Gap project. We have till spring. It's too wet. People really need to be involved with it as well. They're backed up just as well as we are. We have till early spring, or late spring, early summer to do that. So I think we're just going to wait on that. We've been trying to do the best we can, fixing up some berms here and there in between rain. Since the last meeting, we had a resident call in and say that there were some more signs stolen. So obviously the only thing that we could do about that is take a half hour or whatever on the phone to talk to the state police and get them there, and they did an investigation. There's a hearing impaired child sign taken and 2 watch children signs taken. Brush Mountain, Brush Valley area. I haven't heard anything from that yet. The one person that had that requested to have the sign put up in the first place was wondering on who was going to purchase that sign, whether it's us or them. And since I've been here, there's kind of a gray area there. Sometimes, like the driveways, the township buys it the first time, and then it's up to the landowner from there on after. Well, I think it should be that way. I mean, if it's a specialty sign other than the driveway name, it should be up to the landowner or the person requesting it all the time. But there is no policy or anything. I'm not one for more rules, but I think there needs to be something. So what's good for one is good for everybody. So I think you guys need to come up with something stating some facts here and what we're going to do with this situation.
How expensive was that sign, Brandon?
Well, the signs are $49.90 a piece plus posts. You're looking at over $100.
It's hard for me because when they call me and talk to me about it, we don't really have anything
Right.
in writing. And so, like when we've said driveways, it's easy because we've always said if it's a private drive, they would replace it after the first one. We buy it and then we just invoice them.
Right.
But this is a kind of a different sign, so we just kind of need a standard policy in our minutes that state that, to make it easier for both of us.
Why don't we work on that this month and come up with a policy, maybe contact some other townships and see what they're doing and just get some ideas.
What do you want me to do in the meantime with the situation we have on our hands now?
Well,
Yeah,
let me say a little bit more about this. When we started putting signs up for private driveways, more than one house on them, that was when 911 did the addressing throughout the county. And we did that to get people started, to get the sign up. It's a health and safety welfare issue. Some people will never put a sign up, others put them up right away. We said as a township, we would put that first sign up. And some streets are labeled with a catchy name, and so those signs tend to disappear. And we thought, well, if you're gonna put a catchy name on your sign, it disappears, then you should come back and replace that. The township doesn't want to be responsible for it. So that's kind of what took place. And I think that's a good policy. Now, the deaf child sign or a blind child sign or something like that, that may fall under a little different category, but we need to talk about that.
Well, I agree with that, Doug, but
So what do I do in the meantime?
well, I'm not just saying that, I understand that's a safety issue as well, but
Yeah.
what's it any different if somebody's driveway sign gets stolen and they need an EMS vehicle or something there and they can't find it? That's a safety issue just as much as, I mean, in my opinion. So I'm just saying, whatever we do from here on out needs to be the same.
I would tend to agree.
Does, I thought, it might be the Boroughs Association, but I was going to say PSATs. I thought they had recommendations of which signs should, basically be required and
For us,
yeah, which ones can be optional. I can do some quick looking into it, but,
Well, what would you like to do in the meantime regarding the hearing impaired child sign?
Do you have any more?
No, I don't have any more, and there's another, an owner who called me Saturday and asked if we put up two watch children signs and cattle crossing signs, and he said that he would pay for them because I told him that, if it's a specialty sign, you should be, you're usually the one paying for it, and he said that's fine.
It's
So-
been that way in the past.
Okay.
I've actually paid for those signs too. So I think that should stay the same. For now, I guess with a deaf child sign or something like that, just go ahead and replace it until we have something in the books for it. And then when they get it the next time, that's the policy.
All right, so then
So is that a motion, that you're gonna pay for that?
Make a motion to pay for the deaf child sign, yes, I'll make that motion.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion?
No,
All those in favor?
aye.
Aye. Motion carries unanimous.
And the other signs,
And then we'll come back should I put this on the agenda for next,
Yes.
put the sign policy on the agenda for next month? Okay.
yeah.
Do some research?
I saw one recently.
Okay.
Somebody has a 10-foot policy that does all this work for you.
So we'll put sign replacement policy back under.
If the others have already agreed to pay for them, then I would just label them.
all right, well, I don't feel like, that's fine, just tell me what to do, that way I can make one phone call and deal with it all.
So you're
I
saying-
think it's fair to say that this policy is going to say that a watch child sign is not something that typically municipalities pay for. As you said, a deaf child's a different story, but if you want a sign saying look for children, that's not,
Right.
Yeah.
that's not
Well,
arguably
Yeah, kick this one
required
out for a
in
while,
any
I
way.
think it's time to sit down.
But so the other signs that I was asking about that were stolen, I'm to just get them and then we can invoice the other two were watch children signs that the Amish community, those watch children at the Amish school community asked that we put up, and they said they'd be responsible for them. So I'm just to put them up and let's just invoice them for that.
Yes.
And the other gentleman that talked to me about the cattle crossing and watch children signs, get them, put them up and do the same since he agreed to,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Just have to make a note in our sign book.
Can you follow this up on?
I, yeah. Another thing is, myself, wanted to talk with you guys about the snow fence. I know we went away from doing it for a while, and then we started doing it again. It obviously helps, but I don't think anybody ever really kept track of it. It took us, for 3 guys, it took 113 man hours to put it up, take it down. That's altogether, that wasn't really messing around. So with our wages, less new fence, diesel fuel, and whatnot, it was almost $5,400. Plus new fence, you're looking at between $5,000 and $6,000 to put that up. So it's great when it's there and we need it, but
Is that to put up and take it down?
yeah, put it up and take it down. So I'll keep putting it up. I have no problem putting it up. I sleep better at night in the winter, but that's, $5,500, $6,000. You guys can make the decision whether we want to keep doing that or not.
Well, I think we should identify the roads. There's some roads where you really need it, other roads are,
Yeah, we kind of put it, where we put it, we really need it.
yeah, well,
I would agree with Doug. I think that ought to be your decision. If you think you need it, put it up. If not, don't worry about it, Brandon.
Well, you had talked about, the reason you had brought up snow fencing was the potential to hire a.
Yeah, another person. We
another-
always have
to have
people
a fourth plow driver.
help in the winter, but, I mean,
So if you don't put that snow fence up, you have funds to
right.
have
to
a part,
put-
to have a fourth person
Right.
plowing.
Well, not really, because, sorry, money person. Not really, because you're not saving any money.
Right,
I mean,
I guess,
I mean, you're saving time that they could be doing other things, because it's just man hours. So they're out, I mean, I'm not trying to be the negative, but they aren't
Well,
saving
you
any
also
money.
talked about the Old Gregg School pays
Yeah, if we-
$6,000
We have
for
a,
their
we have a
plowing.
spare truck, and this is something that I thought about. You guys can do whatever you want. But if we get a 4th person, and maybe not for every time, but just some of the time, you could put that truck in the developments in town and possibly here at the school too as well. Whenever you get a decent snow, there's one guy goes that way, one guy goes this way, and one guy goes straight to the mountains the way it is now. And in town, the developments kind of get put on the back burner, so it's not really fair to those people either. So I'm just saying
So then you could use the $6,000 that's in the Old Gregg School budget for plowing. And not only would it benefit the school, but you would be able to pick up more
Right, I mean,
plowing
I
and
don't know.
development in town.
We would definitely have to do that first because of people getting in and out of here. But that's something to discuss, I guess. That was a thought. I don't know. And
Something else I'd like to consider, I mean, because it's community related, I think we should consider at least part of the EMS parking plow.
Wasn't that discussed last year, and there was something about who they have doing it was far
yeah,
cheaper
they asked
than
us
what would
about
have been
mowing the
for us
grass
to do
or
it.
plowing the snow. And one of them was like $50 and the other one was like $75. So I'm pretty sure that they figured
It was cheaper
it
for
was
them to do
cheaper
it
for
the
them
way
to
they
keep
were
doing it the way they were doing it than have us
Just a
to
thought.
do it, is what they said. But I'm just saying, that's a thought as far as, we can keep doing it right now. I mean, I have a few people that I call if we, get in dire need. We can keep doing it that way if you guys approve of that, and then.
So how would that work if you hired a 4th person? I mean, would they have set hours that they work throughout the winter, so they'd be on payroll as a part-time person, or would they be a contracted service that they would come in? I mean, how would that,
I would say as needed,
a part-time as-needed person, and so,
which
they
is
would
gonna
have
be
to be on
tough.
call all the time.
Right, that's why it's
That's
tough.
when
It's
people-
tough because nobody wants to come in the middle of the night,
Unless you hired somebody in that shift. I mean.
Right. I mean, like I said, if it's easier, we can just keep doing what we were doing as far as calling people whenever we need them. There's a couple people, and I guess it's getting close to being the time that's possible. Maybe I waited too long to bring it up. But,
so you're thinking of plowing this school parking lot every time it snows, that's what you're thinking? right?
yeah, treat it just as we would have
And
as
to
the
do that,
roads.
you would use your so-called reserve crew or whatever it is
Yeah.
that people.
Unless if it was just a salt job where we were out salting, we could swing in here and do that as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
And not call somebody in, but like I said, I'll just forget I said that. We'll visit that next year, I guess.
Well, you could think about it until next, maybe come up with a better plan by.
Well, I don't have a
Do we
plan,
have
I
any
just wanted to discuss
snow
it.
in October?
So I should line up snow removal for this year yet.
Well,
Well,
until
that's for us to
you
discuss.
guys can think about it and discuss it or whatever,
All right.
but other than that, I don't have
That's
anything.
always hard, that's
So,
always a hard.
As a supervisor, if the board would approve it, anytime Brandon needs help that I'm available, I would be more than welcome or willing to help, but that's up to the board.
I think you were on the list last year.
Yeah, for supervisors.
Yeah.
We have, I think, and the auditor set the wages.
we didn't, it's not always that you need somebody, it's just sometimes, you know, that's what's hard, but.
Especially weekends, if you need somebody, if you're, want to, call me.
Any other discussion on that topic?
I don't have it.
None.
Unfinished business?
Wait, I have a couple questions for Brandon. On Granville Road, what was, or how was the problem resolved with the Ryder property,
Problem.
with water?
The house is lower than the road. I mean, we went and scratched some of the leftover Portland cement that was rough out of the driveway. I mean,
I've got 2 calls from Perry Benninghoff's office now.
so have I. I mean.
And I went one Sunday after she called and looked at it. I think it could be resolved very quickly.
We gonna fix everybody's driveway then that complains?
I think because of her situation, we should consider that.
It's up to you guys.
I mean, from what I've seen, you're looking at less than an hour's work. And a little bit of amosite
You know,
to divert the water.
in the past, we got into situations where a member of the road crew was plowing someone's driveway or plowing out the meat market or that sort of thing. And that's not right. It's not for private use, it's for public use. And the public use stops at the edge of the road. Now, it would be nice to help her if she's in a wheelchair, but I don't know that we should start doing that. I think that's a questionable practice.
That's my opinion. I feel somebody like that deserves just a little bit more than the rest of us, but
Well,
that's my
yeah,
opinion.
but where does it stop? I mean, I think it's more of a yes or no.
Standing in the driveway looking north to the right, there's a 4-inch pipe already. If that was just opened up and a little bit of amosite put in to divert that water down in the yard, I don't think there'd be a problem.
I dug
We'd
it out,
fix-
I dug it out by hand with a shovel and put a pile of dirt there, but then when we come through there with the snow plow, if we get over a little bit and hit that, then it gets back in the yard, then who's cleaning it up?
Well, when I was there was nothing left. The water washed it away. That's the only reason. If you backed it up with a little amosite, I think it would make a difference. And it'd be very little amosite.
I think it's a slippery slope. I think you need to stick to the public roads. You can't be helping this person or not that person, and you're gonna get complaints either way. But, if it's outside the right-of-way, the person who owns the property is responsible for.
This is the same place where, when we go through, before we did spend all that money on the road and cleaned the ditches out and tried to be nice, that we were not really well received by that and it was not okay. And now we get requested that we do it spring and fall, twice a year. So what do you do in that situation then? You get yelled at if you do it, and then if you don't do it, you get yelled at too. They want you to do it. So
Make sure the culverts are clean and you go on about your business. I guess that's all you can do.
like I said, it's just about the same as the sign thing. What you do for one needs to be done for all.
Sure,
That's
sure.
all I'm saying. You guys can decide from there.
I have a question. Isn't the right-of-way from the center of the road 16 foot 3 inches, I think it is, from the center of the road? That's the township's right-of-way. And as long as it's on the township right-of-way, I think the township should take care of it.
Well,
We've also had issues where it is the township's right of way and we need to do work on it, receive issues from the same
person.
per same road, same
Well,
people.
but here's how you handle it. You just tell them, our right-of-way is here, because the state does the same thing. They'll say, this is our right-of-way, we can do anything we want with that. And then from that right-of-way in is the homeowner's responsibility to fix whatever the problem is.
The only thing that's touchy is a lot of these roads, I'm assuming, were one-lane roads.
Right.
So if that center of the road was on that one-lane road and then it became a two-lane road, without doing a whole bunch of surveying to figure out where exactly the center of the road is,
Right.
I don't know.
Did you answer that question, David?
Yeah, the width of the right-of-way varies, right? But you're right about most of the municipal roads being 16 feet from center. But I want to be clear about something. That's a right to use that portion of the property.
Right.
You know, I'm not in Gregg Township, but my right-of-way goes clear up probably to close to the front door. The municipality doesn't mow my grass, they don't trim the
Right.
trees, they don't do anything on my property. They have the right to, if they want to put in a larger road, they can, but it's not an obligation to take care of all of that right-of-way, it's just,
It's the same with the culvert pipe issue we've been having. Culvert pipes that run under your driveway are not the township's responsibility to clean out.
Right.
They're
Right.
the property owner's responsibility. So, yeah, it is
It's touchy on that too,
it's
because
a hairy,
if the person that lives there doesn't clean it out, it could
then it
mess
affects
us
everyone.
up too, so it's kind of double-edged
I
sword.
think they can decide to do whatever they want in the right-of-way, but the right-of-way is not making it their property, it's just they have the right to act on that property.
So what you're saying, we leave well enough alone?
I think that we went back a number of times, Brandon and the road crew went back a number of times to fix some things that were done there already. And I mean, I would trust the roadmaster's opinion and decision on this. That's my opinion.
End of discussion then.
You want to do the end of discussion? It's over. Okay, nothing else on that, or you want to keep going?
No point in going anywhere because we're not getting anything.
EMS funding, anything else for Roadmaster?
Nope. Neither.
One thing we should consider, she'll call in 45 is that culvert sometime, the way it's open.
Yeah, I said, I talked to you about that, and that grade PennDOT most of the time says it's a lot easier to just not deal with it than it is to deal with it, but we can put a catch basin on there, but then it's gonna be it's within their right of way too, and sometimes that takes an act of Congress, but I'll talk to the PennDOT guy if you guys want me to.
At least it's a question and we get an answer.
The bottom of 45 minutes will follow.
Did you say you have talked to PennDOT already, or?
No, you
I
said-
talked to them about the same issue at the bottom of Blue Ball, 192. When, before we paved it, I wanted to deal with that, but he said it's a lot, you just walk away from it, is what he told me to do. So, I can talk to him again.
That's all I have.
EMS funding. We need to make a decision on what we're going to do, because we're at budget time, and that joint meeting is the 19th of September.
The next Wednesday.
So what would you like to do?
I would go with the local services tax and sit back and see what it brings in.
There's the information I've
Yeah,
gathered
then
since.
go from there.
Yeah, so this is pretty much what we've seen already in the last few meetings.
Right. But there is one there for the very first page. I didn't have any information on that at the time. If you want to explain to the public exactly what they are, that's fine.
I think they know, we've been over, yeah, LST tax, the per capita tax, the property tax. The one Donna brought to us about taxable properties, so
Good.
what would you like to do?
What was your opinion, Doug?
I think we should go with the local services tax. As Pat stood up here and said, it may not be enough to cover everything we need, but let's see what it brings in. It's just an estimate. Let's see how much money that brings in before we do anything else. And it's on the backs of people who are working rather than on the backs of landowners, so.
I think it would be more fair that way if it's at all possible to work out.
But what if it doesn't bring in what you need to? What's our obligation?
What's that?
What's our obligation, budgetary obligation to them?
My understanding is $25,000. Am I correct?
Well,
That's a
it's
half
up to
mil.
us to decide what our
Yeah.
budgetary obligation is. Half
Yeah.
mil is 25,000, that's what we've kind of gone off of last year. LST will not generate $25,000, so
Nope.
that's a decision we need to make tonight, whether we just go with LST for this year, whether we go with LST and property tax, or whether we go with property tax.
I'm not in favor of property at all.
I would go with LST and look and see what happens during the year, and then we'll adjust if we have to. We might be surprised, and we might not be surprised, I don't know. That, at best, that's an estimate. You don't know till you actually see the money come in, so.
What would you like to do, Charles?
And then-
I would agree at that point. We would have to do something.
Yep,
Is there a motion?
I'll make,
I'm sorry, do you have to go back to that other group and tell them what, I mean,
We have to tell them, but it's up to each municipality to decide.
Primarily, if one defaults, they're all gonna walk away. That has been the decision.
so are we, is this a default? No.
If we don't support our share, yes.
Well, that's what I'm saying. The LST is not going to support our share.
Right, but we're gonna have to do like Doug said, we're gonna have to try something to see where we get.
But then we're not going to have the additional funding to make up the 25,000.
That's what I'm worried about.
well, now, if everybody would pass that, Potter Township and Penn Township have the lion's share of the
It's
local
still-
services tax, and from what I understand, they agreed to put all that in,
Right,
right?
right, but it's still not,
It's not fair if not everybody does it.
but it's still not the equivalent of,
Our portion.
I mean, our portion was was a made-up,
It wasn't made up.
wasn't made up
It
amount.
was
In
estimated.
terms of, somebody said let's go with a half mil.
Yeah,
That's
If
what-
somebody originally would have said, let's go with an LST, that would have then been the measuring stick for what was equivalent.
Yeah.
So,
In the beginning, they based their numbers off of
Right.
that.
yeah. Now, as far as I'm concerned, we're not talking about a half mil here, we're talking about an LST.
Right.
And we're gonna I wanna sit back and see what
Charles
brings
is still
in.
talking about a half mil, because that's what $25,000 is.
Let's see what happens, we got a year.
But that's where they come up with the number, Carrie.
I know where they come up with the number.
Well-
What I'm saying is the LST is not gonna generate $25,000. If you would like to be able to give $25,000 to the EMS, you're gonna have to come up with the other $10,000 plus. Do you know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So we
But
can
if
go with
don't-
just the
If
LST.
we don't try something, we're not gonna do anything.
Right. But what I'm telling you is, we can try something and go with the LST.
Okay,
But
but
it's
when
not
you're in
gonna
the
equal
office every day,
25,000.
can you work and look at those numbers to see where we can come up with the rest?
Well, the center tax agency.
Charles, where do you want to come up with $10,000 out of the budget?
That's what I'm asking you for next year.
No, I'm asking you. You
Well,
are
I'm asking
also a
you.
supervisor that
Right.
looks at the budget. I'm telling you, there isn't $10,000 unless you want to pull it out of the roads. Is that where you want to pull it from?
We're gonna have to do something. Because I don't wanna put it on landowners alone.
Well, I don't either.
Right.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to put it on the
No.
landowners. So where are you coming up with 10,000 extra dollars?
I can't
It
answer that
could
at
be
this
more than
point.
that. The LST could only generate $6,000, and then we have to come up with $19,000. That decision needs to be made now, because we're going into the budget.
We should have talked about this back when it was first started,
We
Carrie.
have been talking about it for months and months and months, actually over a year.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go along with Doug, let's see what the LST creates.
Yeah, we can do just the LST tax, but that's all we're gonna be given this year,
Well, see what happens. And
so that you understand that. That's all the money that we'll be giving the EMS. is the LST tax and what it generates.
How much other did we give them this year?
We gave them $25,000 this year.
Okay.
We don't have any money in the budget to give $25,000 next year.
Right.
If the LST only generates $6,000 and you want to give them the equivalent of $25,000, you have to come up with $19,000 more dollars. There is no room in the budget to cut anything, nothing. Michelle,
How far over your solicitor budget are you this year?
we are significantly over
Okay, so maybe.
because of battles that we had to do in court.
You didn't have to. No, you
So
didn't have
we need to come up with that money because the current budget doesn't have any money in it either. So next year, it's not like we're magically going to come up with another $10,000 to $20,000.
Did anybody ask the Penn Valley EMS if they would give us their budget numbers before we made this decision, so that has that been done yet?
I've asked a number of times.
Well, just from looking at what they have, I mean, I can see that the LST isn't,
It's going to be about $150,000. Now, their goal is to sell, or to have 3,000 memberships. So that will generate, if they hit 3,000, they usually have 1,500. So an additional 1,500 at say $50 is going to generate an additional, I think, $60-some thousand. So if they can generate the additional 60-some thousand, then the municipalities would technically only need to come up with 90,000 in order for them to break even. But that's a big if they're going to get 3,000 memberships. So there's just a lot of numbers up in the air.
well, I think everyone is aware that they need help, and I think we should just see how it develops. I'm not gonna let them go under, it's too important. So let's just take it a step at a time and see where it goes. Like you say, more memberships could come in, the LSC might generate more money, we hope. So,
I honestly believe, talking to Lindsay, that will happen.
I hope so. I mean, that would be
Because
great. That's,
I've talked to so many people that didn't realize what it was really about.
yeah, well, there's misinformation out there, that's
Right.
for sure, yeah.
It has changed.
there's over 5,000 residences in Penns Valley.
Right.
3,000 shouldn't be unreasonable, but
Yeah.
what I'm not disagreeing. I'm in favor of going with the LST.
Mhm.
I just want it to be evident to everyone that that is all we will be able to give because there is no other money in the budget. So if it only generates $6,000 or $10,000, we don't have $15,000, $20,000 to make up the difference. So
For this year.
for this year, yeah, reevaluate it next year. If it wasn't enough,
Well,
then we
that-
can look at it then.
If we gave them what we had this year, can't we adjust it in the beginning of next year? To make up the difference?
The problem is you gave money that you had as surplus from last year.
Right.
We don't
But
have
if
a.
you use your surplus every year, you won't
Deplete it.
have that surplus at the beginning of this year,
Right.
this time.
And we also use
Especially if you
surplus
don't
out of the old
use-
Gregg school, who also will
Right.
not.
So
keep
regardless of
including
how
that.
we go budget line, even if we're way over our budget on one line this year, that has nothing to do with, that will have something to do with our excess revenue at the end of the year, but that doesn't have, that's not a way to base your budget for next year. So, you know, we keep using our revenue, our reserve, there won't be any.
Won't be a
So,
reserve.
when we have money in a savings account, but, you know, that's something we've had to rely on in, January through March when our real estate tax hasn't come in, so we
Right.
can't really use that.
But like I said, some of the things that Lindsay has told me have changed. I'm banking on the fact, I hope that makes it better. But there again, it's a gamble. So I would agree with Doug. I would like to go with that at this point in time.
So if we're gonna, I'll entertain a motion to go with the LST tax for the EMS.
I'll make the motion.
I will
Well,
second.
it's a motion to advertise
Right.
for an ordinance.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
And I'll send the ordinance to you all to give it the okay before I advertise.
Okay.
So that would then be what you would report next Wednesday.
Correct. Wednesday.
Is that Gregg Township is going to do the LST tax.
I'm
So
sorry,
that's
who made
all
that
we're
motion,
doing.
Charles? You made it?
Okay, so what I want to clarify to is that I have never taken a denial from the OOR into the court system. Every appeal that has gone to the court system was initiated by the township, even though it was already decided by the OOR. That's the first thing. The second thing is a lot of these appeals, I try to prevent an appeal by asking Jennifer a question. For example, today, the last appeal that was filed, I asked for a doc file that was attached to an email. She sent me a PDF. I said, I'm looking for the doc file. I would like to avoid an appeal. And she said that per the law, she doesn't have to give me that file. However, in section 701, if the file is available in the requested format, that is the format you have to give the requester.
Yeah, but these are these petty things we get into. Why do you need the doc file? If I print out a Word
It doesn't matter
Wait,
why
wait,
I
wait.
need it.
If I print out a Word document, why are we arguing?
That's a good question. Why can't I
You know-
have the doc file? I have
It's
a
editable.
It's
reason.
an editable format.
I
That's
have
why I
a
didn't want to
reason
give it
for
to you.
wanting the doc file. I
What?
don't have to
What is the
explain my
reason?
reason per the law. I don't have to explain my reason
Then
per
we
the law.
will
Give it 2
continue
weeks.
down this,
So why can't I have the doc file?
Because it's
because
editable.
it's an
That's
editable
what I said.
file.
But I can have that file.
No.
The law is extremely clear on this. The right to know law is not a big complicated book. It's like a few pages, and it's very clear. I asked for the doc
I
file.
called the Office of Open
When was
Records
the
and
last
they
time
told me to do that.
anybody was trained on the right to know law by the Office of Open Records?
They don't have trainings that we go to. I mean, I'm just a
They
secretary.
have trainings all the time. They're on their
Well, then I
website. They're
need to take
free.
it, you're right, but
They're totally free.
We are
Okay, I wouldn't consider the
we are
website.
continually working to try and learn what we should be doing better, because we certainly do not want to be going through this every single time.
Well, can I make a
We want to
suggestion?
give,
If
we
you
want to make,
lose-
I am speaking right now,
Yes,
Michelle.
of course.
Yes. We want to give any record that we believe we should be given. And there are certain ones that are a matter of safety and security, or a matter of attorney-client privilege in a matter that is being litigated, that we are asking for his consultation on, that anybody would understand as attorney-client privilege and doesn't get released publicly. So we are giving, the vast majority of requests, we are giving records. Almost every record that exists. There are times where the request is for something that doesn't actually exist, and what we have to do is prove a negative to the Open Records Office. So if somebody requests some document, and we deny it, well, we grant it, and we say, your request is granted, however, there are no records responsive to that. And then that person appeals it and says, I don't believe them, it has to exist. Well, then we have to prove to the Open Records Office that something doesn't exist, and that's a very difficult process, and that's one that we're learning. We're learning that we didn't say the right things before, and we need to learn what the right things are that we need to say now. Very difficult to prove a negative. So then the Open Records Office grants that person's appeal and says, well, you didn't prove that you don't have this document, and so now you need to give it to them. Well, how do you give somebody something that doesn't exist? Those are the types of battles that we're having with this. The vast majority, we're just trying to give. My emails, honestly, you can, there's nothing in there that's illegal or criminal. There's nothing that we're holding back that is violating any rights, that kind of thing. Any illicit behavior that's going on. People might not always agree with what we say in an email. They might not always agree with the decision that we make. But we are honestly trying to do the best that we can to be more transparent. Every day we're talking about new ways. We're posting online. We're videotaping our meetings so that people that can't be here know what's going on. We're posting on social media more so that you guys are more aware of the events and the activities and the decisions that we're making. So that's
Can
what
I
we're
just
doing.
say, just for example, as a right to know officer, it's not something I chose to be when I first became the secretary. One of the things that Ms. Grove has been in my office demanding this week is the Old Gregg School meeting minutes. The Office of Open Records said we had to provide those in their finding. We gave her all those minutes that we had in our possession when we had the first time go around. I don't have any more of those minutes. She can come in every day with her camera and video me, but I cannot produce any more Old Gregg School meeting minutes from the early inception of the Old Gregg School. I can't. So she can come in every day and harass me and demand those things, but I cannot fulfill that request. Whether the Office of Open Records said I should do it or not, I can't do it. So I can say that to her, but she has every right to keep, I guess, coming in and asking me that every day, but I cannot produce those records, period.
Were you guys able to produce this sometime between June 25th and today?
We had no idea about it. Anyway, that's
Let's
litigation.
give this
Yeah, I
one
really
more
wish
minute,
these
2 more
guys will
minutes.
start getting along because it's just.
I'm sorry,
like
can you say
federal
that again?
government's ripping everybody apart.
I missed the beginning of what you said. Can you say it
I
again?
said I wished you would all start getting along and doing stuff because it's tearing everybody apart.
That is why I ran, is because I want to do
Well, there's
things
a lot
for
more
this
problems.
community. and-
There are a lot more problems in this township and this valley than people know.
I have a question. How many are there out there that are truly stuff you don't have? And how many are there that are truly things you just don't want people to know?
That we just don't want people to know, none are that we just don't want people to
We
know.
don't have to, it wouldn't matter if we wanted to hide it or not, we have to give that to them.
But you
Okay.
don't always do that.
So you're
Yes, we
saying
do.
all those
Yes,
that
we
were
do.
questioned, there is nothing at all?
Unless it has to be.
I don't know, I mean, as I said, between the time I left the office and came here, there were 5 more appeals filed. So,
Okay,
I mean,
but
there are a
they-
lot
so
out there.
There's nothing there for those
Sorry.
appeals to take place? I mean, they're not going to get no papers
The-
saying, oh,
the-
this is the meeting minutes or whatever.
The only ones that are withheld, the only ones that are currently withheld are attorney-client privilege. There are no other
If
records.
you want to
that
go to our
exist.
website. you
I
can-
don't have internet where I live, so you know what?
I
If somebody wants to put a tower up, I'd be happy.
Oh, sorry.
The next one.
You can see what an appeal looks like and the reason for an appeal if you want.
I have a question. Would a secretary sending a paper to the chair or alternate right to know officer and the attorney asking them to forward the paper, would that be protected under attorney-client privilege?
This is a matter that's still under litigation, so we're
Okay.
not going to discuss this.
So you
now.
attested to the OOR
Carol.
that email
My question
was
is,
about a
how
draft
are
legal
personal
filing for
emails-
review by the solicitor, and that's
Excuse
not
me,
what it
shall I
was.
read?
I'm finishing.
You don't
That's
have
not
to
what
know
that
what
was,
it
and
is.
you attested under penalty of perjury to the OR that that's what that was.
Thousands of records.
We're not
Now I'm
discussing
finished.
this issue anymore.
Of course
Go
I
ahead,
can.
Carol.
My question concerns personal emails that have been sent to supervisors, from me personally, and now I find them on a website.
That's
That has
interesting.
my personal information, my business, one of my daughter's personal information. How did that right to know request come about?
Well, what's
That
interesting
personal.
about that is that you actually concealed your email about that request, but gave Carol's.
Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about.
You know how many,
It's on your
well, if
website.
you have if you
Got it.
had 100, anyway, it's just a lot of paperwork to go through, a lot of emails, a lot of,
If you have questions about the right
Right.
to know law and the process that we have to go through, please get in touch with us.
Actually,
We're
go
more
to
than
the
happy-
Open Records
We are more than
website.
happy to talk with you about them at any time. So we're going to move on now. We've already discussed EMS. We're moving on to township map. We filled all our spots. We've turned stuff in. We now just have to write the blurbs that go on it, and we're hoping that by fall, we'll be sending out the township maps, and every residence will get one. And we'll have extras in the township office. So we're really looking forward to that. We've got lots of people saying they're really looking forward to that. It's going to be a great addition. Pavilion at the ball field, we had discussed putting the pavilion in and decided to do it, but we never formally made a motion on it, so we just need to make the motion.
Where exactly were you planning to put that? Or that?
It's on the, there's pretty much a mud patch right outside of the ball field
Towards town?
towards town / Chris's,
Bill?
yeah. So all the stuff is sitting there, we just need to make
it's going to be.
the
Behind
formal
the
motion
flagpole.
to be in.
Behind the flagpole.
I think the youth center / church is planning on helping put that in the next few weeks, I would think, in the next month.
Well,
so.
we've been
I would
helping.
say before you do, make sure you get drainage under this.
Yeah.
And
Well,
like
we
I
won't be-
mentioned,
I don't think we'll be putting a base yet anytime soon, because it'll have to settle and stuff, so, yeah, we should definitely.
because the whole ball field has drainage under it. I helped install a lot of it.
You can help us figure out where it is.
Some of it goes over towards Chris's property, some of it goes to that storm sewer, or it did.
It's a marsh down there.
So we did the motion?
So we need to make the motion. That's okay, Billy, then. Officially,
Make
so
the
it's
motion
in the
that
minutes.
we approve the installation of the
And
building.
approve the expense, I
The
guess, is
expense
my
of the
problem.
Yes.
Okay, I will make a motion.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion?
Not at this point.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Unanimous. Meeting date November. I'm actually going to be out of the country, so we have to figure out a different date. Would have been November 8th. I will be gone the 5th through the 12th.
Fifth through the 12th, you said?
Correct.
We could do, no, first Thursday's your meeting. The third Thursday is probably your best option.
You guys all do the 15th?
I can.
November 15th.
Are you sure?
Our meeting would be what, Scott, the first?
15th.
Our meeting would be the first at the fire company.
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would be, would you say that?
15?
15.
I can't. But,
What, yeah, you have the most busy, you're the busiest in the evening. What, do you have it?
well, I would be free, there's a right to know law training for the municipal law section that day, guys. So I'll be in Lancaster that night.
Okay, so 15th was okay with me, so I'll move to another.
Wednesday?
I can do the 14th.
I can.
Are you going to have anything on another one?
No, I can do it.
Okay, it's 14th work
Yeah,
for you.
yeah, that's all right.
That's fine.
14th work for you?
Sure.
Okay, so the next meeting then will be November 4th. No, we're in September. So the November meeting
Yeah.
will be the 14th.
14th.
Okay, so that ends.
Same time?
Yeah, 6:30. So that ends the unfinished business, on to new business.
Do you want me to discuss it?
Sure.
An issue came up with the need for a ordinance discussing telecommunications towers. What we discussed coming into the meeting was basically me bringing a draft to the next month's meeting of an ordinance that would govern the placement and location, characteristics of telecommunications towers within the township. Mike talked about one last year sometime, I forget exactly when. I think it's a good idea. If you're interested in that, though, there are one or two, I know matters pending in some sort of zoning process, whether they've yet to be filed or there are actions or applications pending regarding cell towers in the township. Since there was discussion about passing an ordinance, I can bring that to the next meeting, but what is typical in these situations is to pass a motion staying anything relating to a cell tower, or in technical terms, a telecommunications tower, with the understanding that you're going to come back with an ordinance that will address right, wrong, or otherwise the pending applications, any pending issues relating to a tower. Okay? Does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
You're going to pass, I'll bring back a draft of an ordinance that says where and when and all the details relating to telecommunications But in the meantime, there's no sense in, I think, 2 telecommunication towers going through the zoning hearing board process. If it's all gonna change in a month's time or 2 months' time, what have you. Okay.
Yeah.
So the motion, I will bring back, I mean, the request was already made to work on a telecommunications ordinance, which would essentially be in the template that Mike had brought
Yeah.
sometime prior. But what I think you need to do is pass a motion to hold all enforcement actions or applications relating to any telecommunications tower matters aside. You know, basically to stay all enforcement action or applications relating to telecommunications towers until you enact an ordinance.
Okay.
So nobody has to go through the zoning hearing board process. Mike is about to, I think, and I don't know the details of it, I guess he's not here, but I think he got, someone wanted to apply or something relating to the cell tower, but they would have to go through the zoning hearing board process, and that makes no sense again. If you're changing the law. So someone needs to make that motion if you want to do that.
Yeah, the motion would be to stay all applications for a permit until the ordinance is approved.
Right, or enforcement activity related
So
to
I
the
wrote,
location.
withhold all enforcement actions or applications related to telecommunication towers until you enact an ordinance.
Okay,
Is that what the correct ordinance or motion would be?
yeah. Could you send something to us for review when you feel it's?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and that way we'll be on top of it next time. Okay, I'll make the motion that you have written down there, Jim.
It's going to take some time. It's not as easy as, you know, local services tech. I mean,
Right,
it's going to have a lot of moving
Right,
pieces.
right.
But
Well, yeah, and distributed antenna systems and all that stuff is in there, yeah. Okay, I'll make the motion.
I'll second his motion.
Any further discussion?
None.
No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion carries.
Is it unanimous?
Unanimous. Anything else for new business?
I don't have anything.
The sign policy is being tabled, right? And then you're correct, going to buy the sign for the Easement Agreement that was lost.
Correct.
Any discussion on any items under correspondence?
There is that one document in there, Chris helped me over the phone, work through it, I just, it's the, I think it's the Gannett Fleming T419 bridge replacement. I just want to not keep, let me see.
Is it on here? Is it
No, it's on the correspondence,
Okay.
but I just, yeah, I just,
Gannett Fleming, T419
Yeah.
bridge?
it just says the municipality of Gregg Township states that its zoning ordinance is generally consistent with its municipal comprehensive plan and the county comprehensive plan. What did you say, that's a yes?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's all, I just wanted to make sure, I mean, it's easy, I just wanted to make sure you knew I was sending this off to.
Okay.
And if there's any additional comments, but it's just on the bridge on Lower Georgia Valley Road.
Any other comments on anything on correspondence?
No.
Anything else, Charles?
Not that I can think of it this time.
Okay, our next, well, we have a budget meeting September 26th at 6:30. So that will be our next public meeting. And I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
You say the 26th, budget meeting?
26th.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second that.
Thank you all for coming. Good night.